We're here live at the MedTech Conference in Toronto, not Mars yet, but we're super excited. We have Andy here with us, and we have co-host Randy.
Randy and Andy, yes.
So Andy, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and maybe one little thing that people might not know.
Sure. So thanks for having me, guys. I'm Andy Molnar. I'm the CEO of the Digital Therapeutics Alliance. We're the trade association focused on software as a medical device that is clinically validated and delivers a therapeutic outcome. There is a lot of potential in this space, a lot of data in this space, and we're working really hard to get this into the hands of patients so that we can really finish what care should look like in this world with innovation. Yeah. It's really exciting. Okay, something unique about myself. Okay, so I have performed at Carnegie Hall in New York City with the Philadelphia Boys Choir twice.
Wow.
And I've also sang in a professional opera. Now, this was all before I was 13. And then once my voice changed, I just wasn't quite as good.
So we can't conclude this with you,
Nope.
I'll take it you sing.
Nope.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Wow. Mic drop. You heard it first. Well, so digital therapeutics is like a mouthful. Can you just reduce it to the basics?
Sure. So many people are used to using mobile health products, right? They could help you with consider weight loss. It can help you potentially with insomnia. People are used to tracking their steps. But there are certain times where you're going to use software and it's going to have a clinical outcome or it's going to help you manage your disease. And you actually need to trust that and know that it's efficacious, especially if you're paying for it. And so if you have an app that has gone through rigorous clinical trials and gone through the FDA, that is where you're a digital therapeutic.
Awesome. So I'm hearing trust, the FDA process. Can you give some examples of companies and what sort of user case scenarios? That would be awesome.
Sure. I think the first company that I'll use is Big Health. They have a product that treats insomnia. So I don't know if you guys know this, but there are about 30 million people in the United States that suffer from insomnia. Can you guess how many doctors there are that deliver cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia in the United States?
200?
1,000.
Nice. So I think when I checked, it was 680 something. So your only option then is you can suffer, right, and not sleep like a lot of people do. You can take medication that has a lot of side effects, or you can use an insomnia digital therapeutic that helps you actually cure your insomnia because you know how to deal with it through cognitive behavioral therapy. So I think that right there is a great example of a standalone product, as well as Akili's product for ADHD. That is standalone as well. It helps rewire the brain. And people are used to standard of care for ADHD being drugs. Yeah. And you give that to your children. So it's not to say that this is going to replace that in every situation, but it is something that is like really exciting for the future of healthcare to get people off of drugs when they don't need them and to ensure that people are taking the right amount of medication as well. Now, there are a whole host of other scenarios, but we'll get into them. I think those are sort of like the core examples that kind of make it relatable.
So this is a medical device conference. So everybody here is bound together because they all have to go through the FDA or other national regulators. Yeah. So is every digital therapeutic regulated as a device or a drug or?
So the way we define it is that it has to be appropriately regulated. There is a pathway with the FDA called enforcement discretion. Now, you can't just go out and say your enforcement discretion. You actually have to go to the FDA and ask them and say, this is the pathway we want to take. And so that is generally the very lowest of regulation in the United States that we see for digital therapeutics. If you are mobile health, but you have published trials, then you could start to say, I'm allowed to make claims because I published this trial. You're sort of on the fringe, but we're really seeing more and more companies, even the mobile health companies with data, going towards that we want to prove or we want to demonstrate that we're safe and efficacious, which means FDA.
Okay, so let's drill in on that, because what's the advantage for them of going through that and going through the FDA? Like, why would you actually want to be regulated more heavily?
Right. Well, first of all, you can make a claim, a clinical claim. If you're mobile health, you're not supposed to say, I can cure or I can treat X disease. It's more like, if it's insomnia, again, just to use that one, you're like, we can help you sleep, right? But you can't say we treat your insomnia. Okay, so if you want to be clinically regulated, if you want to be accepted into medical guidelines, then you really need to show that clinical benefit, and that needs to be the regulated pathway.
And what is the connection between that and actually having a successful product or digital therapeutic? Like, why is it important to be in the guidelines? Let's assume people don't know about that. So,
oh, sure. So it really depends on your market, right? If you want to be an employer benefit, if you want to be a direct-to-consumer product, you may not need to go that pathway. But if you are truly someone that wants to, I shouldn't say cure a disease, but treat a disease, then you're going to want to go through this pathway of demonstrating that value and ensuring that doctors accept it. Doctors are not going to accept it if it's not clinically validated, right? Medical societies are not going to accept it if it's not clinically validated. But I can't really necessarily say just one model is better than another. It really depends on what patient population you're trying to help and how you're trying to help them, right? Like a monitoring device could potentially be regulated, maybe not, but it all depends on how you're impacting that patient's life.
So a lot of these are apps on a smartphone, right? I use a lot of apps. I pay for very few of them.
Yeah.
How do you make money? I mean, it's not cheap to clinically validate something. How do you make money as a digital therapeutics company? Who pays you?
Yeah, so I mean, every payer that pays for drugs and medical devices it's similar, right? You have everything from direct to consumer. The employer market was really big, probably in the mid to late 2010s. And now they're feeling overwhelmed. So now they're looking more for platform solutions. Insurance companies will pay for it. Hospitals will pay for it, but it has to be that right fit. And I was actually talking about this in our panel earlier with the team. It has to demonstrate value to the person that's paying for it. So sometimes that is the patient, and sometimes that's the insurance company. Sometimes the doctor. Really, sometimes you're providing efficiencies for the doctor, and then the doctor's able to bill codes, so it's the doctor who pays for it. So they're really it is going to feel exactly the same as every other delivery mechanism.
And how open are the floodgates for these companies on being able to successfully find a source of revenue right now?
Oh, I mean, there's no floodgates right now.
Like digging for a well?
Somewhere in between.
Okay.
I think, 5-10 years ago, it was digging for a well.
Okay.
And just hoping. We actually just recently got proposed codes in the most recent physician fee schedule that hopefully will be finalized in November and go into effect next year for digital mental health treatment devices. And so this is the first time we're really seeing CMS or Medicare say they're going to pay for therapeutic interventions. We also are seeing a regulatory pathway called PDURS, which is prescription drug use related software, that will make it easier to pair digital interventions with drugs. That will allow them to be covered on the pharmacy benefit. Outside of the US, we're seeing pure play prescription digital therapeutics get reimbursed in Germany, France, and South Korea, and Japan. And so it's about understanding your market, understanding the reimbursement pathways, and also being in tune with where CMS is heading and where the global reimbursement landscape is heading, so you can kind of plan for the future, which is why people are members of the Digital Therapeutics Alliance, because we help keep in touch with what things are changing.
So I give. Tell us about the Digital Therapeutics Alliance and what you guys do and what the value is for members with that.
Sure. So we are the trade association for digital therapeutics, and software as a medical device really has a home with the Digital Therapeutics Alliance. We are a nonprofit, and we are C6, which means that we can lobby Congress. So we spend our time focusing on CMS, the American Medical Association, and legislation to open up these pathways for digital therapeutics to fit into the healthcare system where they're meant to fit, right? And so I think that's a key term, because now that we have these digital mental health treatment codes, are people going to just fit into them because they exist? Or are they going to fit into what makes sense? And that's why we need to continue to work with CMS, work with the American Medical Association on CPT, and work with commercial payers to ensure that this landscape is created correctly. And Medicaid as well. Sorry, I missed that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is sort of like Jerry Maguire, you show me the money.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so one last question. It's sort of in jest, but it's actually kind of a serious question.
Sure.
I have a lot of friends who are into the Grateful Dead, and there's There's thousands of soundboard tapes out there that people trade. They used to copy them tape to tape. Now they're all online. There's apps for that. It really successfully chills a lot of people out. You know, it helps them relax, lower their blood pressure. Is that a digital therapeutic?
Well, no, it's not. As much as I'd love to say the Grateful Dead is a digital therapeutic, because I think they've earned that status.
Okay.
They are not, until you clinically validate them, right? And use it in a way that treats a certain disease. So if you are suffering from general anxiety disorder, we can actually look at music as a medicine as a whole, right? There's also a company, Med Rhythms, that uses music to help people regain their ability to walk after they have a stroke. So while you're listening to the Grateful Dead, and that could potentially help you regain your gait.
That kind of like rhythm?
Yeah, because it's utilizing rhythm.
Okay.
I might listen to Jacob Collier, who's one of my favorite musicians, right? And that might help bring back my ability to walk. Now, there's also companies that do focus on general anxiety disorder and music. And it's actually interesting because if you're in like a very, very anxious state, like the worst you can possibly imagine, the Grateful Dead might actually not be comforting. It may be some loud, fast music that gets you from like this, I am like losing my mind anxiety down to a medium state. And then you might turn on the Dead to get you down, or the Grateful Dead, excuse me, to get you down to that like very relaxed
And
state.
is that like a personalized thing? Like it's true to each person? It's not like gangster rap is really good at this frequency of anxiety and Zydeco's here.
Exactly. So the companies I know that are working on it would not necessarily like use gangster rap unless it fit into something that you like to listen to.
Okay.
Because, you know, it could be that like metal music actually calms certain people down. Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, thanks for coming out. We appreciate seeing you at the conference and stopping by here.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Andy. Been great.
Cool.
That was good.
Awesome. Appreciate